All right. Got a big juicy one today. This is a double Whopper Supreme extra cheese top with bacon. I'm not just making fun of FIFA today. We're talking about something actually with a modicum of seriousness. So there's a storm a brewing. It's about to hit the World Cup like Thomas the Tank Engine going full speed downhill. And it's probably going to hit Copa America as well because CONCACAF has been dealing with this for a long time. With the issue is a chant. The Mexican national team, like men's national team fans, have been doing for a long time. It is a chant that is a single word that is yelled with incredible vim and vigor at a very high volume when goalkeepers take goal kicks or when they take free kicks or whatever. And it's loud. I mean, there is no ambiguity, right? Like the same as the moment you hear my accent, you're like, America, probably Florida, right? Like there is no ambiguity at all in what they're saying, how loud they're saying it. They build it up, like if you ever watch a USA Mexico match, it's oh, and then they say one word really loud, okay? It is not a good word, obviously. That's why we're sitting here. It is a very loud, bad word. In fact, it's not just a bad word like the one that my grandma would get mad at. It's a slur. It is something that is agreed on by a lot of people to be a slur, specifically a homophobic slur. But it is stirred up some controversy for a couple of different reasons. One, you have Mexican fans insisting that it's not. You also have CONCACAF putting rules in place to attempt to stop the chant from being done, which are about as toothless as a 97-year-old grandpa eating tapioca pudding, probably a great grandpa at that point. And then there's also the question of like, well, then what do you actually do to try and get this to stop? Because you need to get it to stop, right? But we'll start with the fact that the Mexican fans are of the belief, right? That, not all of them, right? But enough of them to at least create kind of a momentum here, that the chant is not actually that bad. Now, the main reason for the chant in their telling of it, and I can kind of back this up in terms of my experience watching the United States play Mexico for a long time, is that the chant comes out in more full force when Mexico is playing bad, which means the chant has been nonstop for a while now, because Mexico's been getting its ass kicked by the United States. And Mexican fans have not dealt with that particularly well, which is fair. I mean, it's okay to be upset and angry, right? But they've been doing a lot of drink throwing and a lot of very loud chanting. And the reason this is top of the billing tonight is because Mexico lost again. Nations League final, United States completed a three-peat of the Nations League by beating Mexico 2-0, which is like the meme score for the United States to be beating Mexico. And that match was stopped twice because of the chant. Because of the chant. The match was stopped 2 separate times. But we're going to get to CONCACAF's rules here. First, we need to talk about a sentiment that's wonderfully encaptured by this one dude that replied to me, right? Because I have had this interaction multiple times. First of all, we're going to blur the name here, right? I'm not trying to send animosity to this person. I understand where they're coming from. I do not speak fluent Spanish, and most people, I would say, particularly that are working at FIFA or working at CONCACAF, do not speak like colloquial Spanish in Mexico. So there is like a defensive tone to this. We'll just read it. Zealand, as someone who watches your content, I want to say that the chants are not homophobic. They never have been and they never will be. Maybe in context, it isn't the smartest thing to yell something vulgar in the air, and the idea of it getting banned is fine. Well, then let's just ban it. But that's beside the point. I'm just tired of random media publishing this as homophobic and labeling the whole Mexican fan base as homophobic. And then they continue. We might come back in on that later. But I'm an interested guy. I like to be learned. I did some research. So here's what it means. The word, which I'm obviously not going to say, it means essentially like gay male prostitute. That's what the word means, right? If you direct translate it, if you hire a professor of like Mexican linguistic understanding, like the Mexican vernacular of Spanish, that's what you're going to get. Now, this is complex, right? Because while that's probably not the best thing, right, in the modern climate, given like just the, that's not something I would shout out loud. Typically, don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. Feels like a good idea not to be yelling that, but it's not, like A tier slur right off the bat. So you need further context here. And the further context is actually provided very well when you go looking for it on the internet. The internet's a dangerous place. And the context is essentially that the way you say to score a goal, basically in Spanish, like in Mexico, be meter un gol, which is like to put it in the goal. Now, I'm going to let you go from that point to gay male prostitute in your own mind. Like you can make that jump and why that chant would be directed towards goalkeepers particularly. But that is essentially the meaning of the chant. It is an insinuation, right, of the ball going in the goal while also implying, derogatory things, essentially. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. As a straight dude, I'm not qualified to tell you whether it's an offensive term. There are people way more educated on the topic than me that say that it is. And so it is. It's like, then just don't say it. Like, it's just, how about you just say literally any other word, like any other normal group of fans out there? Not that there are a lot of normal group of fans out there, but there's an important kernel here, right? This idea that like we've always done it, so we don't have to do it. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of history and things changing, right? But like if you go back 100 years ago, there were people saying a lot of heinous shit that they don't say now, right? Because they figured out that was something that they probably shouldn't be doing, right? So it is possible to change what you're saying, right? And even if you sitting there in that moment don't think that it has that effect on somebody else, doesn't mean it's not having that effect on somebody else. So like I understand that there's a lot of language things going on here and like insinuations and whatever, but this is really a simple equation, right? Like if you're making a lot of people uncomfortable, right, and everybody is telling you it's something you probably shouldn't be doing, then you probably should not do it, right? Like, I mean, like, I know there's always somebody out there that's like, don't fold to the sheeple, brother, but like, come on, like this is not the hill to die on when a bunch of people are like, hey, that's kind of a dick thing to say. And then you're just like, I'm going to say it anyways. I don't give a shit. Like that seems like a really weird hill to die on. But then there's the CONCACAF response to it. Everybody knows this is bad, right? Even this person that I'm engaging with here is like, it isn't the smartest thing to yell something vulgar. Like everybody knows this is bad. CONCACAF knows that. And has a plan in place to attempt to deal with this whole concept of the fans screaming this word. And it is, I can't express to you how loud. It's so loud. It's like the loudest thing on the broadcast. I mean, they are belting it. And they build it up too. They're sitting there like, oh, like you can tell it's coming. Like the ref should already, like he should just hear the oh and just like blow it. So the protocol CONCACAF has in place. I'm assuming other federations have this sort of thing in place. They're just not dealing with this in this way. It's that the first time that it happens, allegedly, which this is never true. As somebody that's watched a lot of USA-Mexico matches, it's never true. The first time it happens, they're supposed to do like a PA announcement in English and Spanish and be like, hey, don't do that, right? But if anybody's ever watched a group of kindergartners hang out before you tell somebody not to do something, they're just going to, Timmy's going to start finger painting the walls the moment you tell him to stop finger painting the floor. So they just do it even louder. The second time it happens, the ref's supposed to bring all the players to the middle for like 10 minutes. And then the third time it happens, you suspend the match. The fourth time it happens, you abandon the match. I don't necessarily even know what all that means. But the CONCACAF has not enforced, like, they don't enforce it well enough. They enforce it the same way that refs enforce, like, where the ball goes out and where the throw-in is taken. Like, they'll only really address it if it's really, 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 really obvious what's happening. And I get the feeling that most of the time the head of CONCACAF is just sitting somewhere on his pile of ill-gotten gains going, please no goal kick, please no goal kick, please no goal kick, please, because they're just trying to get to the end of the match. So in the Nations League match that just happened, I think it was laid bare to all that CONCACAF does not care, and that this is something that the Mexican fans are just going to get away with. There's almost like a weird sort of pride kind of coming through the chant for at least a few of the people that are involved, and that like the Mexican team's getting thrashed. The U.S. up 2-0, probably should be winning by more, right? Just had a couple of good chances that didn't go in, and the chant's getting louder and louder and louder. And I shit you not, right? The last like 20 minutes of the game, nonstop, the announcers on the PA just going, hey, please suck less. Have you considered being more considerate as a human being? And then in Spanish, like, hola, suck less. Like, you just hear while the game is going on, these like pre-recorded announcements are being played. And the chant happens like 10 times. I swear in the last 10 minutes of the game, the ball was just finding a way out for goal kicks, particularly on the U.S. side. But I mean, they're doing it when Memo Ochoa's taking goal kicks on the other side too. The ball just keeps going out of play. They keep doing the chant. Eventually, I mean, we're at the point where the announcers are going, oh, you really should never be hearing that. Like, and then the ref calls everybody to the middle, and we hang out, and there's a bunch of announcements. And then we go back to playing. First ball goes out for a goal kick. Hey, boom. And nothing happens. That is, I mean, no, the announcers don't even know what to do at that point. But the funny thing is I've seen this movie before. This is not the first time. It's not the second time. It's not the eighth time. In World Cup qualifying, Mexico had no home fans for a couple of matches because of this chant. Right? Previous Nations League, I think one of the Nations League finals was abandoned before the end of the game because of this chant. The chant has not gone away one iota, right? Like it hasn't. It has not gone away at all. It has maintained exactly where it was. And that is, I don't know what, like, CONCACAF obviously has to enforce this. They have to, CONCACAF has to buck up and actually start, first time announcement, second time middle, third time suspend the match, fourth time abandon the match, right? Like they have to start doing that. But honestly, that's already happened. We've already gone through the 8 stages of the chant or whatever it is. Like we've already done that. And I mean, at a certain point, I like they're bringing these players to the middle of the field, right? And they're all standing around for 7 or 8 minutes, and it doesn't do anything, right? If anything, you're showing the fans that are doing the chant that they have control over what's on the field. I mean, these are a bunch of drunk fans, right? Or at least a bunch of, anger drunk fans. Their team is losing. They are now using a weapon to like hold the game hostage, essentially. But it's laughable right now, the lack of enforcement on it. And I mean, I get that, like, since this is eventually down to the referee's discretion, the referee is trying desperately to try and get to the end of the game. But this is not going to go away unless you perform, like, traumatic surgery. I don't know what that looks like, right? I don't know if we're talking about actually knocking Mexico out of major tournaments or, handing them losses in World Cup qualifying, or I don't know what that looks like. Right, but if CONCACAF or FIFA is ever serious about getting it to stop, right, which it probably should be, and I'm gonna look at this objectively, right? It probably should be, because like it's about to hit Copa America. It was already happening a little bit at the World Cup in 2022, but Mexico hosting home matches at a World Cup in 2026, it's going to be a lot louder. Okay, like it is not going to be oh, we're not quite sure what they said. You'll know what they said. And that's going to be a giant PR problem for FIFA and CONCACAF. So outside of their usual preference for an action, they probably should figure out something to do to try and stop this. Will they? Hell if I know, dude. I don't know. But I do know that it won't stop until something insane happens, because CONCACAF's invented these protocols that they're now afraid to enforce. And the fans that are doing the chanting seem very willing to call CONCACAF on its bluff. And so they're like, beware. Some things are going to get weird. There's probably going to be points deductions, or at the very least, matches are going to start getting abandoned. I don't know. So yeah, some weird's going to happen. We are headed to some sort of, the level it is at, we are headed to a giant reckoning. Either the chant doesn't go away and we hit Copa America in the World Cup in Mexico and it is everywhere and it becomes a giant controversy, right? Or they're going to have to do something drastic to the Mexican national team in order to motivate the fans to seek a change in doing the chant, right? So we are headed to one of those two incredibly dramatic, like kind of catastrophic Category 5 hurricane situations. And nobody seems to be prepared to address it before we get to that point. So that's going to be fun. I do have an idea, though. You could just not do the chant. There are a lot of fun, artistic curse words out there that don't make a lot of people feel uncomfortable or like aren't derogatory towards a large group of people. So I recommend you break out Urban Dictionary and find one you like and then start shouting that at other goalkeepers. Until next time, what is my life that I had to spend an hour investigating that?